Welcome back, fellow spy fans. Tod and Dave here for another episode of Spies Like Us podcast. This week we're talking about the Americans again. We're doing episode 7 from season 1. There wasn't a whole lot of tradecraft in this one.
Not my favorite episode. I'll throw that out there, but I got my items to talk about.
Right?
Yeah. If this is your first time on the podcast, I'll go ahead and say this might not be the episode to start with. You want to go back at least one, because we're right in the middle of doing 3 episodes covering Americans season 1, and this is just a chosen middle episode.
That's right. And you can go find our first episode for season 1 on your favorite podcast app. Just search Spies Like Us podcast, or you can go to our website, spieslikeus.net, and catch that there. But if you're joining us again and you've already caught up on season 1, this is the episode where Phil and Elizabeth kind of split up and go their separate ways. I guess Phil is on a mission at some travel agency convention.
It is a travel agency convention, which is damned convenient.
Right.
that this convention is being held at the same time that a particular mission needs to be accomplished here. But we've said before, we like the travel agency cover. I just want to say this is like awfully convenient. I see it's an annual convention.
Right.
So they won't be able to play this card like too many times. And if I see them play it again, I'm going to call it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a good point. Just awfully convenient for the timing for Phil's mission. Elizabeth, they didn't really go through a whole lot of what she's doing. I actually had to look this up. Elizabeth is trying to gain an asset or a source from the SDI project, which is the Strategic Defense Initiative. And I think they're working on some sort of nuclear technology, or is it like our defense system to stop nuclear missiles or something?
I think it's a missile defense system. And the reason it would be of concern is it's like stuff that the U.S. could deploy like along Poland, Czechoslovakia's borders kind of stuff.
I see. This was kind of fun, but a lot didn't happen, so I'll just kind of... There's a guy that works at the SDI that had a gambling debt, and she's using him, trying to use him. He's kind of like a degenerate type. So, but he won't give her any info because I guess the mob is gonna kill him if he doesn't pay back. So, she meets with her handler, paid by Margot Martindale, by the way. Great actress.
We're gonna talk about her some more later. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but they pay off the mob's debt and basically own his life and get information that the defense initiative is progressing better than it has in the past. So that's about all she's kind of up to. Meanwhile,
I can talk.
Phil,
I got notes.
you got notes? Oh yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So yeah, this guy has already been turned by another Soviet spy, but for some reason, or at least the story, I don't remember if this is something we saw happen in the series because it's been a long time since I've watched the series. But what she tells him is that your old handler is dead. We decided he was untrustworthy and had to get rid of him. You're answering to me now. And so there's that. The paying off the debt thing. I guess my note was, the guy that's holding the chip, by appearances, seem like it's not stated, but seems to be mopped up.
Right.
So I'm a little iffy on kind of garnering this kind of attention.
Yeah.
Possibly from the mob. He at least looks like someone that has a cousin in the mob, even if he's not in there, right?
Right.
So I don't know. They could have had him they could have given the money to the asset and told him to pay off the debt. Just use just as much intimidation and force, but keep their fingers clean off of it. And from the mob guy's side, I don't know why it doesn't, and this is not tradecraft, this is mobcraft, I guess.
Right.
But turning down the $20,000 doesn't make any sense to me, because this guy's already got a gambling problem. You know what happens if he pays it off? He's gonna borrow some more. That's what's gonna
Right.
happen. He's
And I
gonna get
think the
right.
mobs, the guy's reasoning for not wanting to take the money was I think he called him a clit, and so he wanted to get his pound of flesh. It happened all quick, so I think the writers might have just been expecting people to kind of gloss it over, but it was yeah, it wasn't really like a strong case that the guy was making. Like, no, I don't want $20,000 that I've been trying to get paid off. I want to kill the guy because I don't like him, which doesn't sound very mobby. You know what I mean? Like, you're right. It's if we're talking mobcraft, I guess he could be making more money because he's a degenerate, so he's probably gonna borrow more money, right?
Right. But for sure, Elizabeth is doing mostly B story work in here. The main A story in here is going to be about Philip. Um,
Right.
there's a little more Elizabeth story, but the things she's doing, I believe, are like set up for the next episode, and that's how a lot of these episodes work. Like, we focus on, if we need to focus on one operation in the back, just to make sure the other characters have their screen time and have stuff to do, they could be like setting up just some setup for operations that we're going to see in later episodes. But yeah, as far as the her and the missile defense guy, that's it. It is what it is, and I'm ready to move on to the A story.
Absolutely. The A story being the travel agency. Philip is sent to some other state for some convention is the cover story, but what's going on? There's a political dissident in Poland, I think it was, who I guess became a priest despite being married or whatever, which was I'm not sure why that was necessary, but uh, other than I think like the Soviet Union's communism was overtly atheist, I think is why they did that. But anyway, the dissident is outspoken against the Soviet Union's, I guess, occupation of Poland. And he's garnering a lot of media coverage and publicity, and it got attention of the Reagan administration. And he's there to kind of work with, American politicians to get Russia out of Poland.
Right. And can I just
Uh-huh.
jump in for anybody that's might be a little bit historically impaired, and
Right.
just talk about the contemporaneous Poland situation.
Mhm.
Yeah, Poland. Let's see, when Hitler invaded Poland in 39, at that point, actually Stalin and Hitler had kind of a non-aggression pact going,
Right.
and so Stalin, like, Russia publicly like disavowed or said like Poland's no longer a country anymore. It's up for grabs, which was pretty shitty. Uh, and it's, I mean, I think most of us have heard about the Germans' invasion of Poland, but Russia actually went in there as well. And at the end of World War II, they ended up holding like 3/5 of the territory.
Mhm.
And the what we're seeing in the show, this is all still like since the end of World War II, the situation has been that um, there's a Soviet friendly government in Poland, a very Soviet friendly government, which is propped up, of course, by the Russians, like right behind them. And so ostensibly, they're not part of the Soviet Union, but they are, I don't know, up like a puppet satellite state. And of
Uh-huh.
course, some Polish people are not happy about that. And this guy is one of the big voices that's come to America to, you know, uh, viva the counter revolution or something.
Right, and it's generating a lot of steam, and so Philip's mission is to work with some other agents to discredit the Polish dissident, which was kind of a cool setup. There's a third. Well, first of all, the second agent he's meeting with is an old girlfriend, which sets up a whole story conflict, with Philip and Elizabeth, and he's going off on his own, and Elizabeth and his relationship haven't been very good. So he's going off on his own to meet up with an ex girlfriend from way back to run this op, and so that's kind of setting up for the story for the marriage. But the mission involves a third agent who is really close to the dissident. What is he? Kind of like a press secretary or like a manager or something?
You know what I noticed is that's and I think this is interesting. I'm not sure if we are going to get to see this character again, but he is the guy that's interviewing the Polish dissident leader on TV near the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And he's basically interviewing about his uh I guess it wouldn't necessarily be a defection, but uh a come to the American side of
Yeah.
viewing things, come to
Right.
the anti-communist side of things. And the guy in the interview says, I too was someone that was once a communist that actually defected. Although for me it was bloodless and didn't involve coming to God. So this guy, this third, let's call him the third agent, if you want to call Irina the second agent,
Right. Yeah.
primarily involved in this app. He's also got a really interesting backstory and a really interesting cover. He is someone that defected from the Soviet Union and became somehow a TV journalist here in
Mm-hmm.
America, but he's actually still working for the Soviet Union. He's
Right.
he's another like full on like deep ass mole motherfucker.
Right. Right. Really cool backstory. I thought that was kind of. I wasn't quite sure what he was doing because later on he's like kind of yelling at the dissident, like he was in charge. So I wasn't sure if he was like an agent, but yeah,
Well,
if
you
he's
think
the
think about it as well in terms of if you're defecting or from the Soviet Union, right, and you're
uh,
coming to the U.S., who better to contact, get the
uh,
trust of, go on TV and be interviewed by than by a fellow defector who has found a life in the U.S. talking about that has a common experience as you do, and
yeah,
also has a media platform to share your story. It's fucking genius.
it's a great setup. Um, the only thing I didn't really understand because I thought the whole setup was really cool. Uh, but Philip didn't really do anything. He was just kind of there as the op was happening, and I think it was just set up for the story with the whole issue with the old girlfriend and like being away from Elizabeth because he's just kind of there. But the setup that they're gonna do is the journalist introduces the dissident to Irina, who's a KGB agent that had a relationship with Philip years ago before he was called in and sent overseas. And she is from Poland apparently and speaks full Polish. And they meet him, and then Philip
Oh,
calls the restaurant.
that's why she's perfect for this op.
Right. So I understand why they needed her because
Right.
she could not only speak full Polish. I don't know if she actually was from Poland, or if that was her cover story, but the fact she can speak very fluent Polish and is attractive and is able to kind of like butter up this dissident at dinner. That's why they selected her. But I think the only thing Philip did do was make the phone call to get agent number three away from the table
No, I
because he
just
comes back. Yeah.
I disagree. I think all three of them have like very important jobs, and Philip's job is at least three things. He's got to, well, like you said, he's got to make the phone call, which like any dumb swinging dick could have done.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you didn't need you didn't need your deep deep cover mole to make that call.
Right.
Um, but you know, he's got to do the mugging part,
Right. Oh,
and
that's right. He was the mugger.
and he's
That's right. Okay.
and he's got to do the job of beating her up so that it looks like she was forcibly raped. And I'm thinking, like, when they, I mean, I get a little confused about this. Maybe you have thoughts, but I mean, they do have sex. Uh, I take it as that was operational to, you know, put some evidence in the baby maker.
Right.
Is the least crass way I can think of saying it right now, without just using medical terms. Um, so I don't know, you know, and it's true. There is a, you know, the fact of her, Irina and Philip having had been old loves, you know,
Uh-huh.
before Philip was tasked to become an illegal undercover mole in the U.S. is incidental to this op. It's not, they didn't pick her because of that relationship. It just happens to be.
Right.
But it does set us up for, you know, some marriage stuff between Philip and Elizabeth, which I want to wait, and I don't want to talk about that too much in detail until we finish like how this op works
Uh-huh.
to discredit the Polish dissident. Except to say it was, I just, my OCD can't be controlled. I have to say, there's a scene like he beats the shit out of her, and then we cut to something else, and then we cut back to them, you know, post coitus, and she's not beat up.
Okay. That's
So
right.
just an editing thing. I can't not notice these things, especially when I watch something more than once.
Right.
And but yeah, if the job involves having sex and then one of us has to beat the crap out of the other, like, let's have the sex first, because doing it the other way is just wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, like I really liked, I guess, from the trade perspective, how this all kind of played out. Because after dinner, you know, the priest and Arena go out for a walk, and he's got a couple bodyguards because, you know, obviously the KGB want him dead. But how they get him away is he kind of was like, give us some space, you know, because she kind of kept making, you know, little points at it, which he picked up on and was like, oh, she probably feels uncomfortable. Let me get them some space. And that little bit of space is what helped Philip run in to take the purse and rough her up a little bit where she kind of falls and gets cut. And that cut, the priest takes her back to the hotel, his hotel, and she gets blood on his bedding. This is really important for like setting up like the evidence of the rape, you know, um, which is where she drugs him and tries to have sex with him, and then, you know, like Philip beats her up. So we have this whole like elaborate setup to where there's pictures of her beat up, and agent number 3 comes to him the next morning, and he just thinks he drank too much the night before. He's like, no, you don't understand. You raped this woman, and you know we're gonna show it to everybody. You know, and it was really cool setting up the compromise situation. You know, for our MICE acronym, for flipping someone. Like he basically was like, oh, you got to help me get out of this. You know, and so not only is he trying to get out of trouble with the law, but now the Reagan administration wants nothing to do with him, because if this ever gets out, it's going to hurt all of the publicity. So they completely like cut him off, and I think it was really well done, or I guess planned out for how they were going to discredit him. I don't know. What did you think of the tradecraft?
First I wanted to note that, to be clear, even though the geopolitical situation is like, seems to me to be very accurate and historical, like this guy, this priest dissident, like I don't know of any specific parallel of him or even like anybody like him, but it's like a lot of the things in the Americans. It is fiction that's set in a very historical context.
Mhm.
um what I like is that what I like the most, and she does explain it, Irina does explain it to Philip, is that they need him they need him filthy and discredited, not killed. You mentioned
Right.
a second ago, he's worried about getting killed. Well, the KGB is smarter than that. You know what
Mhm.
happens when they kill him? Martyrdom. Oh
Right.
no.
Right.
Ne- that never pays off. Never pays
Right.
off.
Right.
But especially when you have a guy that's like, on his religious high horse, like this is exactly the kind of look that you want to paint him with. And not only paint him with, but have the situation where when the shit comes down, the first person on the scene is like, again, it's Agent 3, it's the journalist guy who's there to say like, look, I mean, you fucked up, but I can help you. Like, I mean, we'll just tie it off, we'll just get you out of here, you just got to shut up.
Right.
And that's what they don't want him, if he's dead, that says like, oh my god, we really should rise up, the KGB are assholes and assassins. But if this guy's a fucking dirty rapist, then everyone in Poland is like, God, Jesus, you just can't trust anyone. You just can't tell who's on the right
Yeah.
side.
Right.
Everyone's a douchebag.
Right.
What's the
Absolutely.
point?
Right.
So in that envisionment of the end result, it's totally perfect. I think I don't know. The one thing that maybe could have gone awry is if they had misjudged him and he actually did have consensual sex with her.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what they would have done in that situation, but I assume they had a plan B for that. But
Right.
for sure, the way it's presented to us, because we don't know what the plan is and we're just watching it happen. Like
Mhm.
when he turns her down, we're actually thinking like, oh fuck, that that probably throws a wrench into our plans.
Right.
um and then setting up the fact that she tells Philip about their son together right before he starts wailing on her, like totally throws off our expectations. We're kind of like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But then when we find out like that this was the plan all along, it totally works, and I love it. um Except of course, like this is one of those cases, and I'm not sure if we've seen it before in this series, but along the way we're gonna start getting into some Sopranos, Breaking Bad type ground, where we're starting to realize, and Irina reminds Philip, like, this was a good man, we just did a horrible thing to a basically good man.
Right.
And as much as we as the audience like, in fact love and root for Philip and Elizabeth,
Uh-huh.
um this is definitely an era of television where where we get protagonists who are actually monsters. And in a sense, like Philip and Elizabeth are kind of monsters. They're
Mhm.
monsters of a certain type, and they were created as monsters by a certain organization. But it's something we just have to, over time, over the series, like, come to grips with.
Absolutely. And I like the comparison to Sopranos and Breaking Bad, where we have to watch our protagonists that we're rooting for do things that we don't like, and they kind of grow as people. So it's yeah, no, that's definitely a good point.
What's nice
Um,
about this one, like, a lot of my favorite critics have over time become really tired of like Scorsese type stuff. And the other example too is Mad Men. Is like, we had this whole super fun in the 2000s of like, watching what, like, being presented with white men, male, like, protagonists that we really root for, but are actually fucking monsters. And
Right.
some people are getting kind of tired of that. I applaud the Americans for at least having, like, it's not just a guy, it's a couple, you
Uh-huh.
know, in Philip and Elizabeth.
Speaking of which, they're actually married in real life. Carrie Russell and
What?
Philip Reese. Yeah, they just
No.
had a baby a couple years ago.
When did that happen? They weren't married
Oh,
at the time.
yeah, they were.
What?
Yeah, and they just had a baby a few years ago.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, super nice. Um, but speaking of which, that was that op is the main tradecraft piece of this episode.
I'm sorry.
But
I got to throw this out too. Like,
oh no
I
no
know at one point, I think it might have been the second to the last season, or maybe it was the last season. There was one point where both of them were up for Best Actor and Best Actress in
uh
a drama series, and I know it didn't happen, but all true Americans fans were totally rooting for getting that moment of having both of them on stage
yeah, right.
accepting their rewards.
That would have been
Awards.
great.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah. Um, but, that was the main op that we were kind of just discussing as far as tradecraft goes. But thematically, the episode, what was it? Honor and Duty, I think, was the title of the episode.
It was.
And the main theme, I think, was infidelity. Because it happens quite a bit, actually. We already discussed Philip kind of hooking up with his old girlfriend. The episode starts out with Philip and Elizabeth as Philip's getting driven to go get on the plane. They're having a fight in the car, and you could tell that they're not having a great marriage. And last time we talked, they weren't really in a marriage. It was kind of just a front, despite having the kids. But this fight, you could tell that they're kind of eating at each other, and it's becoming a problem.
Can we jump in and talk about, like, what the reason they're having a fight is? Not something we see in this episode, but it's something that we saw in the previously on the Americans.
Yeah.
which is what I wanted to talk about as well, even though it doesn't happen in this episode, and we're here to talk about this episode. But
right.
Apparently in the previous episode, their current handler, played by Margot Martindale, who is absolutely so fucking good in this series.
She's a great actress. Every time I see her, I get really
had some doubts about Philip, and so somehow the idea was to like fake kidnap and torture them, pretending to be U.S. assets, I think, or something, and try to get them to turn under extreme duress. And that was partially because Elizabeth, we've mentioned that, Philip has, between the two of them, Philip's got some doubts about the ideology, or he doesn't necessarily see that the American plan or way of life is entirely bad.
right.
And so something about what she said to their handlers got
Well, I
them
think
into
her
this.
words exactly where he seems to like it too much here, I think is what she told them.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's okay. So two things here. First of all, that's what's gonna start this thought process in Elizabeth's head of somehow the fact that, because she is mad as fuck about this. Philip seems to shine it on. Like, it when the two of them, like, they're fire, if they're fire and water, like, she's fire and he's water, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's the cool cucumber in the thing. She's mad as hell, and anger comes from, like, two places. Anger comes from fear. Anger comes from a sense of injustice. Here she's got both. The injustice of their own people torturing them due to, like, a lack of trust. How fucking dare you?
Yeah.
And the other thing I think is leaking into her is a fear of losing Philip in a way that she hadn't realized how much she emotionally depends on him. So she's coming to him afterwards, after processing this, like after majorly expressing her anger
Mhm.
at Martindale. I mean, you see it in that clip. Like this, tell whoever approved. Like she's beating the shit out of her face. Tell whoever approved this that your face is a gift from me. That is a total Elizabeth line. That is absolutely not something you would ever see Philip say. Philip's cold.
Right.
Philip has a different relationship with violence. He's distanced from it. He's
Right.
compartmentalized it in a way that I really appreciate in Matthew Rhys, his performance of Philip. But let's see, where am I trying to get with that?
Well, this is what
Oh,
sets up the
it was a
fight
park
that they
bench.
were having.
Just saying, it was park bench
Oh, okay. Yeah.
where
Look
they
at the
have the
park bench.
conversation, and fucking Martindale, dude, Martindale. Maybe just as the character actor, she, like, when she gets a line like "better luck next time," she fucking leans into it because
Yeah.
she knows that's not the kind of line that she often gets in all of her
uh,
thousands of gigs. She
right.
fucking revels in this role, and she's so fucking good.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the psychological thing that is triggering into the marriage parts. But before getting off that, I want to complain about Martindale's decision to pull off this charade, which I think is 100% stupid, bad, unrealistic tradecraft. I don't think you do that to your agents unless it's, I don't know.
Well, they did. I mean, it was known that they would do stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been known to do. In fact, I think I've heard that some of the KGB defectors defected simply because of how they were treated or suspected or something like that. That it was like dangerous. Because I've heard they would kill a lot of their spies or generals so it could never come back to Russia. And as word was getting out, that's why a lot of them defected, was to like save their own ass because they were going to get killed by their own people or something. Um,
Well, if I can't call it bad tradecraft for being unrealistic, I still want to call it bad tradecraft for, in my opinion, being bad tradecraft.
Absolutely, I
Whether or
completely
not they
agree with
did
you.
it, I don't think it was I don't think it was good policy. How
Yeah,
how are you really going to trust Elizabeth after this? Like,
right.
she is fucking pissed.
Yeah, she was irate. Yeah, no,
Like, her
absolutely.
only apology is like, "I'm sorry I didn't kill you."
Yeah,
And you're still going to work with this one? Like, you were a little worried about Philip because, oh, he might be getting a little too comfortable. And then you
right.
arrange this. Now you've got a fucking, like, a stone Elizabeth redhead fucking killer bitch telling you to your face that, like, she would kill you right now if she could. And you're going to let that go. Bad
Yeah,
tradecraft.
I actually wanted to talk about that too because I remember, for those of you that have seen later seasons, there's moments where Elizabeth and Martindale's character become like buddy, where there's like buddy moments between them, and it really bothered me because of how bad of a situation this is. Like I don't ever see Elizabeth being able to overcome this or forgive this, let alone like be in the same room with her, you know? So it bothered me that the relationship gets quote unquote better later, because I don't really think there's coming back from from this, and especially from Martindale's character's side point. Like put you really pissed someone off, and like you said, that you can't really trust Elizabeth at this point. She's gonna be on like a vengeful mission. That's not something you just forget. Like, wait, you guys really tortured me and my husband after everything we've done for the motherland? You know, like, yeah. So it kind of bugged me. Um, yeah, it was definitely bad policy. Anyway, that's what sets up the fight between her and Philip. Kind of, that's what they're fighting about.
Yeah, but
Be,
right before, and it's a situation where he's got to go off to do an op, so they don't really have time to, like, resolve it properly. They're just kind of sniping at each other.
yeah,
I
yeah,
liked,
very
I
passive
liked
aggressive.
I
Yeah.
really like that little touch of just as he's getting out of the car, like really, they're angry at each other. Just as he's getting out of the car, she kind of tries to throw that olive branch like through the little gap of the car just as it's closing. Like, do you have everything you need? And he's like, no, and slams the door.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, that was dope.
But that, like as we discussed earlier, Philip does kind of cheat on Elizabeth with his old girlfriend. And on the neighbor's side, Stan, like what last time we talked about the FBI counterintelligence agent that moved in next door to them, he also has uh, like an affair on his wife. But this one is one of his own agents. And we didn't see this in this episode, but there is an agent named Nina that Stan was able to compromise and flip and use her as an agent to get information, who's very young and attractive and pretty. So he's had like a late night at work. And I guess things have been kind of heating up between them, like subtextually. And so he has an affair with her on his way home instead of going home, where his wife is like upset because he's always out late. But now on his way home, he just stops by to meet with Nina and sleep with her instead of just going home to the wife that's already having a hard time with their marriage because he's never around. So that seemed to be like the main theme for this episode was this kind of concept of infidelity and the situations that people are put in. And the reason why I really wanted to talk about Nina and Stan is Nina has this line. You Americans think everything is white and black. We think everything is gray, and I thought that was kind of like a cool line to kind of I don't know really send home the message of like these situations that these agents are in and how it leads to like affairs or just sex in general, especially since they're setting up a sexual situation with this dissident that they're trying to discredit. So I thought it was kind of a cool tie, but a lot of it was kind of shoehorned in. I felt, you know what I mean? Like
What
it just
wasn't
happened to be his ex girlfriend
right? What
that at
was
the op.
wasn't my favorite episode, but
Right.
it's decent. The Beeman Nina plot is only like just kind of danced over in this episode. Like it's very much the C plot that but again they're putting that theme in there of the infidelity. But what's going on with them is actually going to become much more important, and like in a lot of episodes is more central to the episodes than it is in this one. And I think it's something that we're going to have to talk about in a lot more detail, because I believe the season finale is really going to put all four of these characters, Beeman, Nina, Philip, and Elizabeth, at uh, a appropriately season finale kind of bum bum ba. Like there's going to be a lot going on there. But we didn't.
Right.
I'm just flagging. We didn't. There's a lot going on with Beeman and Nina
Yeah.
in this series at this point. We just didn't get to see any of it in this episode.
Right. Yeah, it's actually kind of an interesting relationship that develops over time. Um, yeah. So we definitely wanted to make sure to explain it for the audience so that if you've watched and caught up, we're not ignoring it. It just wasn't brought up much in this episode, other than for the infidelity thing.
I really have to assume you're caught up at this point,
Yeah.
audience, and next week, trust we're not gonna hold off on any spoilers. We will be talking about the whole kit and caboodle of how the season 1 of The Americans ends.
Right.
And that's our idea right now, how we're proceeding. We're still kind of feeling it out, seeing if it feels right. But before I go into this, Dave, and talk a little bit about what the audience can expect in future weeks, did you have any final thoughts that you didn't get to cover?
Not really. At the end, the Irina, the old girlfriend of Philip, drops the bomb that they had a son together. I don't know if you really wanted to discuss that at all, but I mean, it's a big deal that's going to explode later on in the show. But it was just kind of set up here, and it's kind of like a big, a big bomb that's dropped on him. But I don't really think there's much to chat about because it's
I don't remember if that gets any payoff in later seasons or later episodes. The only thought I had is like maybe timing was not perfect, like in real life to drop that on your fellow agent in the middle of an op. You want
Right.
them focused on the mission
right before he's gonna beat your face in.
right. Because you already know that's the job that he's got to do. Like that's part of the mission profile.
Right.
If you've got your head on straight, I think you should know that that's going to make it harder for him to do what he needs to do, not easier.
Right.
In fact, for normal people, for normal people, that shit is damn near impossible.
Right.
You drop that on it too. Like, not only do you need to beat the shit out of me, but also the person you're about to beat the shit out of is the mother of your first child.
And purposely didn't tell you because she didn't want to keep you from your dream of being a spy.
Yeah. But, it is what the episode accomplishes what it wants to accomplish. That's my quibble.
Yeah.
I mean, where else are you going to feed it in? Maybe at the very end, it wouldn't have the same emotional impact. It's a case of story trumping plot, and story, as I always say, when story and plot conflict, story should always win, because what I'm coming to for a TV series or a movie is, first of all, I want a fucking story.
Right.
If you can make if you can keep the plot tight as well, that's awesome.
Right. But that's about it for episode 7. Next week we're doing the last episode of season 1, which I think is 13.
It is 13.
Yeah. So if you want to stay caught up, if you've seen it and want to do the rewatch with us, or if you haven't seen it, you definitely want to catch up to 13 because we're gonna have a lot of spoilers to wrap season 1 up. I think it's on Amazon Prime right now. It's an FX property, so I don't know. It should be on Hulu, but I know for sure it's on Prime if you haven't seen it. That's it.
Speaking of FX, real quick, like let's just say that you and I are both huge fans of the FX.
Absolutely.
Operation.
Yeah. And Fargo, Legion. Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Sunny in Philadelphia, Archer, like the list goes on of like how much goodness these guys have brought us. So wherever you're making your streaming choice decisions, if you can get your hands on something that includes FX, do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You won't be disappointed. It's kind of like HBO Lite, and
that's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
And by light, I mean it's actually really close to the same kind of quality. Once we're done with the Americans, I don't always like to tease this far in advance because we're recording this. Like at the time we're recording this, it's actually going to be almost a month before you guys hear it. But we are 100% confident what's going to follow after that, because our next scheduled episode will be the day before the final Daniel Craig James Bond movie drops in theaters, which that's scheduled for October 8th. Our post The Americans schedule says we should give you a movie episode on October 7th. So what we're going to do, we're going to give you Casino Royale, like right before No Time to Die drops.
And then we're going to go watch No Time to Die. And,
we'll come back.
Yeah.
We'll come. Yeah.
And we'll probably do a brush pass for that one.
100%.
Yeah. So we're pretty excited. But that's it for The Americans episode 7. So make sure to listen in next week when we talk about the finale of season 1. And if you haven't already, you subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, Spies Like Us Podcast. And you can also reach us on our website, spieslikeus.net. Shoot us an email or, tweet us, spies_like_us, or our Facebook. It's facebook.com/SpiesLikeUsPodcast. And shoot us a line. Let us know how we're doing. If you like us, if you hate us, we'll be happy to hear from you.
And the best thing you could do, arrange a park bench meeting with a friend.
Yeah.
Sit down next to them.
Yeah.
Don't look at them.
Right.
Pretend like you don't know each other. But just tell them about the show. Just tell them about the show. That's the number one thing you can do, is to spread the word. The social media and stuff, it once it catches fire, it'll catch fire. But right now, just tell a friend that they should listen to the show if you like it, which I hope you do.
Yeah. See you guys next week.
The preceding transmission sampled the song "Enter the Party" by Kevin MacLeod, and sound effects from freesound.org. Attributions and links are found at spieslikeus.net.